The work session meeting of the Board of Education for August 19th. And we are going to start. We do have a quorum. We're going to start with our introduction of guests.
Juliette Long, Vice President, Special Projects.
Jamie Harrington, Vice President of People, Culture, and Safety.
Dave Kohler, Vice President, Student Learning and Success.
Lisa Stanton, Vice President of Operations and Finance.
Isam Ahmed, Executive Director, Institutional Effectiveness and Plan.
Gonzalez, Director of Marketing and Communications at PIO. Communications and Marketing. Anyway, next.
Richard Plott, CIO.
Kevin Partier, and User Support Specialist too.
Greg McCown, Chief Facilities Management Officer.
Welcome. We're very glad you are here with us today, and we are excited to get to hear from some.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board. It's nice seeing you again so soon. Last week when we met at the retreat, I kind of mentioned that we gave you a high-level introduction to what we were doing with our mission fulfillment, our 4 widely important goals, 12 objectives, and 24 key performance indicators. And we have made a couple of adjustments to it, but it pretty much is remaining at that. Today, I want to take the opportunity to go a little deeper into it with you. What I'll be doing is, and I think all of you have received, you can see this, all of you have received either the email or physical copies, thanks to Rochelle. What we'll be doing is, I'll go over that, and I won't have all the answers when you have questions. For those that I do, I'll answer. For those that I don't, I'll take it with me and make sure that you get back. So, and you've probably heard me say it like a broken record that effective institutions are those who set some goals and deliver on them. And we are delivering on them. And like we showed you last time, that this is what it looks like in our current, it's the end of the year, 24-25 is done. We had those 24 key performance indicators. On the left-hand side, you have the percentage. On the right-hand side, you have the numbers. Some people like percentages, some like numbers. What you see is overall of those 24 indicators, on half of them we met. And as you will see as we go forward, that these were not simply small increases. These were not simply small improvements. We had pretty ambitious goals. So half of them we met, plain and simple. Then there are about another 25% which we improved. Didn't quite make it there. We'll talk a little more about it, but we improved. There were some we didn't make it quite. And again, we'll go a little deeper into it, that in some cases we came really close. And there are a couple of them that we are reassessing because of certain contingencies. What I'll do going forward is I'll take a look at each of the 4 goals and especially talk about those things which we didn't meet for some reason or another, or those indicators which directly relate to disaggregated populations. I know we talked about it the last couple of times. It is important to the college. It's important to you. It certainly is important to our community and to our accreditors. So we'll talk a little more about that. Then we'll kind of switch gears, going to talk about the ones which we didn't meet. I'll reflect a little more on those which we are still reassessing. You're wondering what happened. The year is over. Why are you reassessing? I'll explain a little bit. And after each of those set of 4 goals, I'll stop and have you ask me questions. Preferably they'll be easy. If not, I'll still try to answer them. And then we'll wrap it up and then open it up to questions, if that's okay with you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Cool. So this is wildly important. Before that, indicators. This is the color coding you'll see. Good color coding. The green is met. The magenta is improved, but not quite met. Yellow is reassessing, and red, it's like the red line, not met. This is wildly important goal 1, equitable access. What you see there is we had a total of 6 indicators. On 5 of them, either we met, plain and simple, or we improved. So on these ones, if you give me an opportunity, I'll tell a little bit about the very last one, which says that we did not meet it. Those were the number of accelerated learners students still in high school or taking college classes, transitioning into RCC once they get out of high school. We didn't quite meet it. But there is a context to it in that as we look back, the overall number of credit hours that these students were taking went up as the number of students went down, which meant the average student was taking, as they get out of high school, they had more RCC hours under the belt. Generally, when that happens, something else happens, as literature tells us, which is that as those numbers go up, I don't know what the exact benchmark is, but as those numbers go up for high school graduates, they're taking classes at a community college, more of them opt to go directly into a four-year institution. And so it is, as our institutional research director and I talked about it, it is likely that's what is happening. But again, we didn't fall too far behind. I mean, last year we were at 196, lost a little bit. Again, some room for improvement there. But while we're on this, I also want to talk about some of the disaggregate measures that we were talking about last time. At the very top, you see, we wanted our headcount of adult learners to increase by 100 students annually. And as you look at it, we did pretty good. Those are disaggregated counts that all of the population, but part of it, which we were focusing on. Part of it is also that our average age for students has gone up just a little bit, between 24 and 25. So that's a pretty good record there. Similarly, on number 3, what you see is increased number of Hispanic Latinx students enrolled by 50. Again, we did pretty good. Not as good as last year, but we're reaching a plateau there. So we did pretty good. We met it plain and simple there. The next one you see is about disadvantaged students. Again, another disaggregated population. A very broad reflection of students who are more in need than others. And again, and this is I'm not going to go into that calculation we came up with for that number, but we beat that calculation. We did meet our goal. And we are kind of, at this time, it's looking that for 25, 26, we'll also meet that goal. So those were the disaggregated populations in this WIG, equitable access. I do want to point out, because we're on this particular goal, that this really reflects the fact that this is one of the most broad-based, broad access institutions, not only in this part of the state, but in the whole state probably. And I take the probably back now because you all know this. A couple of months ago, Carnegie Endowment did point out that we are the only public institution in the state, which is an opportunity college. And that is part of our story. Greater opportunity I cannot imagine somewhere else. So let me stop there and ask you, as we look at this, what questions do you have for this goal? Yes, sir.
Just one. I'm curious as to how you came up with the goals. That's an ambitious number.
Totally.
What gives you the feeling that you could make it every year, or or is your goal going to go down because you're reaching some sort of a plateau? What kind of information are you using out there, as far as in business? You look at what percentage of the market are you penetrating, but here got a different animal.
And I know some others may want to jump into this too. These goals were set a couple of years ago. And you're right, that's the environmental scan which goes into it. One of the things which is looked at is, of course, the age of the population, number of people coming out of high school in the region, number of people wanting to go to college. And amongst those, when you slice and dice it, the socioeconomic indicators, right now, looking at it, I don't know exactly how many people will be looking for a Pell Grant, but I'll have a pretty good idea looking at the SCS numbers. Those kind of things go into this. It's not an exact science, and that means what you just pointed out, that when we go to the next year, as we'll talk about in a little bit, we'll probably take a look and say, well, is this a good number? Is this too ambitious, or is it not too ambitious? We could look at it that way too. I know right now, for example, one of the numbers, the number of high school students coming out, that demographic cliff has arrived. In 26, we'll have slightly less than 25. And it will affect this region too. Those kind of things are going into it.
But you have a good source of the numbers that you're basing these things, like these decisions on. I mean, is there some
I'm gonna-
central?
Well, I just was thinking, like, we know these were set years, obviously, before you got here. And so just kind of, I'm gonna focus over here to to take your question this direction just for a little bit, so he can help
Sure.
guide that. Not that you can't, but just you're picking up the ball from last November and you're running with it. You're doing a great job, but there's a lot of history that went into getting to these numbers, I'm sure, from the whole team. So.
So Roger, did you want to finish your question? I think.
I was just looking to say, is there some impartial arbiter to say, okay, here's your number for this particular demographic and here's your number? Or do you have to go out and survey all the high schools? I'm just kind of curious.
I can answer that.
To jump through to get that.
That part I can answer. There is one of the things I look at and here and in the past, and I'll still be looking at it. For example, the high school students thing. Crossing my fingers, hopefully they don't stop this, but the Department of Education publishes 5-year trend lines for each state, for each year, how many people are coming out of high school. It's still a judgment call for them, but it's a pretty good trend line. We have it right now till 2032, and trust me, I've downloaded it. So that's one thing. Similarly, the Census Bureau does the American Community Survey. That gives us a couple of things. One, kind of an estimation of the population by age, but also the SES of that population, which can come close to correlating to needs for Pell. So those kind of things, yeah, they're set in stone. Are there others? Absolutely. We have some commercial things we look at as well. For example, there's a company you will see on the budget, Lightcast. That's something we look at.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sorry,
So, no, that's fine. So to give some additional context here, right, what we're talking about is our mission fulfillment report. So like, are we accomplishing our mission? If you step back, right, we have a strategic plan, which was designed to accomplish our mission. Our strategic plan had 4 adopted WIGs. And under those WIGs, we had 12 objectives. And we did have a mission fulfillment report that complemented that. During our mid-cycle visit in the fall of 22, our visitors came and said, it's an interesting report. Challenge you a little bit to look at it and say, are those really the metrics you should be measuring to accomplish those objectives? And we were like, yeah, fair question. They were the easy to measure metrics, maybe not the best metrics. So we underwent a process to say, okay, if those objectives are supposed to help us fulfill our mission, what would we assess to do that? So that was the first step we took. And this work was done primarily in a group we have called College Effectiveness Council, and the work was led by Juliet. And so we went and we said, okay, so what are the things that if we really said improving community access to our education opportunities and supports, what would we move to do that? So that's when we came up with number of adult learners and student attrition rates. So then when we decided those, then we said, okay, now let's go look at our history, because this is going to be comparing ourselves against ourselves and figure out what's a reasonable goal. And that's how the process went about moving forward as we look at KPIs and that. And this is something that our accreditors have challenged us to want to do too, is we also need to have comparative stuff for other institutions, peer comparison data. And so when you do that, sometimes the hardest part is we may say student attrition rate, and we define it one way. And if we want to have 6 peers, they're all going to find it slightly different. Are you talking about from first day, or are you going to talk about after your first week, and so then that's when ESOMs and the ESOMs of the world and other institutions go and they start jockeying to try to figure out what common measurements are. But that was our process of getting here, is saying, okay, we need goals and tactics that align with the objectives that are part of the strategic plan.
Thank you for that. I know we kind of discussed that over the years, but I was just kind of trying to picture the specific numbers, coming up with a number of 50 or 200.
And we've looked at our past performance and I did joke with the team. I was like, wow, these are some stretch goals. I said, I know they're gonna be on my evaluation. I wonder how they're gonna be on yours, but so yeah, he pointed out that we met a number and some that we improved on and didn't meet, but definitely stretched.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So on the pink one, the percentage, is that 8.6, 8.3? Are those the percentage that decreased? Or are those the percentage that drop out in the first term? So decrease in the percentage of students who drop is 8.6, 8.3, 7.8. Is that representative of the percentage that drop the classes, or is that a percentage of the decrease?
It is,
Drop.
it's the number, is the percentage who dropped, and
Okay.
we're hoping that number would keep coming down,
Okay.
which it does, yes.
And then,
That's an example of a very big stretch goal.
then I just have to say for the goal and objective too, the number of Hispanic and Latinx. So I'm a little disturbed by that because when I look at that, I don't see that as equitable to all the students. And so I'm wondering, is that, like, why specifically Hispanic, Latinx? Is it socioeconomic? Is it first-time college students? I mean, can it be grouped in a different way that encompasses all students? Is it students who English is their second language because there's more groups, or you know what I mean, that would fit in instead of focusing on one ethnic group? Is that, why we have it like that?
I can share my perspective why this is something which shows up in many community colleges or institutions. Part of it is that a desire, and I think we all shared that the student body should look like the community eventually. At least visually, when we're looking at it, folks who make these goals, it's not just here, it's many places that, well, our student body is not looking like that. Does that mean that there are some barriers which are specific to certain subpopulations? And I think that's where it comes from, a good place in the heart. But I get what you're talking about. That could it be something else? Perhaps.
So are we looking at this goal as, so there's 80% Caucasian, 20% Hispanic, 5% Asian to American? So are we looking at getting each group to those percentages? It just seems like when you look at this, if you're in any other of those groups, you might think, well, why are they focusing on one group and not others? So is that the reason why?
Part of it is, and I've noticed this again, more in certain parts of the country than others, that if you're talking about ethnic groups, in cases of other ethnic groups, the numbers are so small in the population that sometimes we run into the small sample statistical issue with Hispanics and Latino folks. And it's not a race, but an ethnicity in that sense. That's a broader group here. Will we have the same conversation, let's say, in North Central Kansas? Probably not. We'll be looking at something else. So this, in some ways, this is the broadest subpopulation when you look at it on ethnic lines.
So that's
If-
why
If you look at some of our school districts, they are approaching and exceeding 30% of their population in K-12 are Hispanic. When we talk about a community college is usually, and its target is to be as or more diverse than its community, is traditionally what you see. Is what this goal did is it let us identify this is a growing population in our K-12, and if we're going to get more students from K-12, we need to understand what the needs and the supports for this population are. Or what's going to happen is when we talk about disaggregated data. Non-disaggregated data, we may say we get 25% of the graduates from a school every year. We want to keep getting 25% of their graduates. if we don't watch how their demographics are changing and adapt to it, getting 25% of them is going to be harder. And so we see are these changing demographics in K-12, and our job is to say, how are we responding to their changing demographics? So when they're ready to pursue post-secondary, we're here for them. And so that's you know, the example of the meta goal would be, how much of the high school do we get? The micro is, how's the high school changing, and how are we making sure that we're, you know, the objective, improve access to educational opportunities and supports. We have to know how they're changing and adopt that way. So that's when you start to subgroup out. So if they did career planning in a school district and said, wow, a lot more students want to do welding, a lot of students want to do welding, and we're not adding welding, we're not responding and providing access. So that's how we look at the unique data sets within the schools and say, how are we positioning ourselves to be responsive to their evolving conditions?
That doesn't have anything to do with who you are. You do welding. So I guess my point is, I'm sure there are other groups, maybe American Indian do, maybe there's only 10, but none come to school, or we should be concerned with them too. So instead of looking at them as race, why are they not in school? All of them. I'm sure they share reasons why they're not in school. So just, I would just like to see, I think it'd be more effective too in getting more overall students in, honestly. So anyway,
I
thank
think
you.
as we move forward with strategic planning here, and because we're coming to the end of the cycle, right? We have one more year of this.
Yeah.
And then the accreditation, and then we start all over again, and depending on what that is, then that is when the change, the wigs and the objectives and all those might change with what's going on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we go to week 2. Well, we talked about access. It makes sense to go to the next step, which is success. And access kind of means limited things without success being attached to it. And you take a look at the very top, it says pretty clearly, it's red and it says not met. I do want to address that. This is a pretty big indicator. This is one of those federal indicators. A very specific population, that first time, full-time students coming in the fall. Are they getting out in 3 years with an associate degree? That's how strict it is. And you can see as well as I can that the trend has been not in the right direction, at least on the surface of it. A couple of things I do want to point out, that this is a very retrospective look. We are talking, the latest numbers we have are for the cohort which came in fall of 2021. Mind you, that was the cohort which was the first one which is coming out of the pandemic. So there is plenty of literature which tells us that was a cohort which was affected. So we have gone down a little bit, but there's another piece of context here too, that if somebody was very fair, was looking at, evaluating all colleges and universities, this is probably not one of the indicators that the feds would use to evaluate community colleges, because most of our students are not full-time. A very small number come out in the fall with the abject intention of finishing an associate degree. So that the denominator here affects it too. Does not mean that it's not important, and it certainly doesn't mean that we shouldn't improve it. We should. It is part and parcel of multiple things that we are evaluated on. So upfront, that's something that we did not meet. That being said, if you look at the rest of the indicators on this slide, 3 of them we met pretty clearly. And these were not indicators which were by any means, they're not modest increases. These were not modest changes. They were pretty ambitious. One of the things you look at about 4 down the line, fall to fall retention rates. I've worked on retention rates in the past for years, and I know, just like anybody who has worked on them, moving 1% is pushing up a boulder. mountain. And that's consistently doing that. That's pretty good. So now this ties into the very first one, which, you saw I didn't meet it. When these numbers go up, eventually the graduation rates go up as well. So this is very hopeful that in the next cycle or the next one, if we keep this, the first time full-time graduation rates will start going up as well. On the, I just went to the next slide. On the next one, we met the average number of credits, which is a good sign. Spending less money and less time to finish. On the other two, we improved. We did not quite get it there, but we did improve. And again, I want to point out on the last one, you see increased 3% per year for male students finishing English or writing. That's again a very big disaggregated population. And just like overall college performance, almost at every level, almost in every discipline, there are some exceptions. Guys aren't doing as well as girls are. I mean, that's no secret. And the gateway to college courses is, the introductory math, college algebra, which everybody loves, and college English. Those are the two gateway things. That's why we focused on this. This becomes, again, this is something which pushes us towards those retention rates and eventually the completion rates, especially for guys. There's a difference, and that gap, it's narrowing a little bit, but not as much and not as quickly as we would like. We are an equitable college. We want to see that in our student success rates as well. So again, this is another one of those big disaggregated populations which we have chosen to focus on, and which our accreditors expect us to focus on, because they see the same thing, that almost half the population is not doing as well. So let me stop there before I go to big three and ask you what questions you have for me. So.
I have a question. So the first time ever, is this across all of the school, the CTE, the tech classes and the ones transferring on? It's across the board, is that correct?
It's not transfers, it's first time ever in college. So if this is the first time they're getting into college.
But they're gonna be, they're going to be transferred. So those that are just taking academic versus technical, I guess is what I'm saying. Love it. Okay, thank you.
We've talked about this quite a bit, the implementation of the COREX, particularly in the math. We've been told and shown that this is having a measurable effect in the positive direction. Maybe it's having more positive direction for the females than the males. Is that the idea? I mean, I guess that's throughout this particular sheet that's showing, but maybe the guys aren't taking advantage of that COREC possibility.
That's a possibility, Roger. I think it is helping men and women both. You're right, it seems to be helping women more. I've not gotten deeper into it, which I'll be happy to. But this is something I was talking to my previous boss about not too long ago. And one of the things, she was a sociology major. So one of the things she mentioned was, well, take a look. I mean, something that you said, I mean, are they not taking advantage of going to these tutoring sessions? She said, well, have you looked at most social organizations? Who goes there more often than not? I don't know if that's the case, but it's very possible. I'll be happy to take a look.
Women are taking over the world.
And that's new how?
There's also, because I had a friend, I think there's pushes and scholarships for single with mothers with kids or to return to school, probably more so than to.
Move forward. All right. We go into week 3, building community. And as you notice there, I mean, let me start at the very bottom. That was one of those things that we kind of did not meet quite. Couple of things come into play there on that survey. The difference is minuscule, but also the number of people who participated this year is more. So it is, it's a balancing act. More people participated, and sometimes it is possible that the number of people, more people who were new participated. Now, when somebody's new, you look at it and you say, well, maybe I don't know everything. It's easy to be a little frustrated sometimes with the systems. That's not an excuse. That's an explanation, which I think can be valid. And so that's where we kind of fell short just a little bit. But a couple of other things. And again, as you look at Objective 8, there is another one of the disaggregated numbers that we're talking about, which is increase the number of Hispanic Latinx students by 50 students per year, those who are receiving college credits while in high school. And again, we did. We improved, didn't quite get there. Though in this context, something else comes to mind, that between academic 24 and academic 25, a couple of things have happened politically, which seem to be having an effect on certain population. I could see that affecting it, I'm not sure. But even as we improved, I think without that, could we have improved more? Possibly, I don't know. That's something wanted to be front and center in front of you.
I know you told us, and I don't remember, but what was our participation rate on the Great College Survey? Like out of the whole, what percentage did we actually get people to respond?
So for the most recent survey, it was 40%, so 286 out of 711, I believe, approximately.
It was an increase from,
Below.
yeah, okay. Still not where we would love it to be, but better than it was the year before.
Yeah, our adjunct faculty participation rates were 15%. And so if you remove them, 74% of full-time employees completed the survey. So it was certainly valid.
That's good, yeah. Okay.
Any other questions on that one? While I'm here, there is a yellow band on reassessing. And that's we had an indicator on finding out how to engage with the community, and what we were doing in the past. We didn't have a solid idea in which direction to go. So earlier this year, we decided to move forward with community engagement survey I talked to you about, and that you have been very gracious to ask me that share it with you. I will later this week. I'll send it out to you so you can share it with your constituents. This is why we are reassessing it. We have gotten some responses. It's fairly new in the field. It has been there for about 3 weeks. We have gotten a trial run on a better tool to do this. And the data at a glance that you saw last week, as one of you suggested, we have put it on it. So when you see the final product, the QR code will be there so that we can get more responses. What we are trying to do is get direct input or feedback from our community partners, whether it is nonprofits, whether it is businesses, whether it is other government agencies, anybody with whom we serve, and find out, A, how do you think we are doing? B, if you're hiring our students, what do you think they're doing? And C, what else would you like us to do? As we get more information and the survey matures, I'll be happy to come in and share with you, just like I did with the students. So that's why we're calling it reassessing right now.
Those surveys are always hard to come by, you know, without some sort of incentive. The population that you're looking for always has a lot of other things on their agendas, and they say, you gotta get to this around, you know, maybe next week.
I think that's very true, Roger, that it's a hard population to survey. What we have to do is find that narrow gap and push as much through as possible. And by that, I mean, there are, I hate to call it tricks of the trade, but there are certain methods we can use to maximize what's really a minimal return. And one of them is, well, what time of the day and what day of the week you send to which kind of organizations. That helps a little. It doesn't revolutionize it, but it helps a little bit. So that's what we are working on to do. And if not, we'll find other methods too. I don't expect a lot of responses in the first year, but I do expect enough of a representative response that when we come back to you, you can say, well, seems this is the direction community wants us to go. This is something they really don't want us to do. Or this is some of the things we need to put into our next strategic plan. So I'm hoping that we can do that and cautiously optimistic. But your point is very well taken.
How many do you send out?
At last count, we sent it out to about 200. And we'll be getting a new batch of names and emails that 100 or so, which will be sent out next week through our new tool, which right now is free. I'll let you know that. Ready to go to the next one. Questions? Institutional excellence. Again, the very first thing you see there is a yellow line which says reassessing. So want to address that quickly. This is something that for reasons which are a bit too technical, even for me, we are still working on migrating that information. Last year, we did run into some technical issues. We're working on that. So the information is there. I told you last week that it's not lost, it's misplaced. When we find it, we'll pop it back in and update you. But that's why you're seeing a little bit of a. On the next one, yes, I do see there is a red there, and there's some context to it that as I was discussing it with our outcomes and assessment team, the feedback is still coming in. Yes, there was a deadline, but some people were taking a little bit of time, so they're encouraging them to come in. So this number will likely go up. It is not entirely likely it'll go up to the 80% we set ourselves, which again is a very ambitious number, but it'll likely go up. But I didn't want to hold you guys while we did that. Part of it is also that even the last couple of years, we have really revamped the assessment system and made it very sophisticated. And while it's sophisticated, it's very good. Gotten kudos from our creditors. It also is taking some time to get it gelled in, get it acclimatized and advocate. So that's part of, again, not an excuse, but that's an explanation. On the next one, what you see is our Professional Development Council. We met it. They have not only have started functioning and doing things as you have heard from us last week. We had the first staff in service. It was very well received. Jamie talked about it earlier. Great speaker. So it is not only have we planned it, we're delivering on it. So, that's definitely a met. And look at the next one. The next two, as you see, we met. The questions there, in fact, on the first one, we met it so well that we upgraded our expectations for it. And even as I say it, in somewhat semi-facetiously, the fact is a lot of work goes into these things. And they certainly don't happen by accident. Let me stop there on week 4 and ask you what questions do you have for me before we go to the next thing? You'll have a little bit of time.
We're just looking at your adjusted numbers.
I know, right? Juliet worked very hard on that, and that's. I wish I could say that about my grades in college, but.
Any questions on week 4?
I have one more slide for you. At this time, and you all had talked about it, we kind of plan to keep substantially the same indicators going forward at this time, except for those reassessing ones where we may have to revisit depending on how that happens. And part of the reason for that is, there was some intention, there was some data, there was some good purpose which went into these indicators when we together, as the president pointed out. It is important for us to have some trend lines going forward. We have had and change every year, have it for 3 or 4 years, which allows us to both examine what's going on a trend basis, but also allocate our time and resources wisely. That old saying that, what is it, Rolling Stone and Moss, that comes to play here. Doesn't mean we are absolutely not going to do it. Again, we'll, as the new cycle begins, and it has technically begun, the College Effectiveness Council is going to meet if there are any changes which need to be done. But also, Vanessa, you pointed out that there's a perfect time which aligns with the end of our next cycle of mission fulfillment and our year 7 visit. So I'm excited to take this to them and say, for 3 and 4 years, this is what we did, and here are our numbers, and this is what we did, is how we did it, and this is what it tells us for the future. This really sets us neatly up for the next strategic plan cycle, which the president talked about at the retreat. We have some preliminary scheduling that we'll be doing later this fall. So those 3 things kind of align pretty neatly. Of course, everything aligns neatly on paper. There'll be work to be done. I don't mean to say it, it's so easy. So we're looking forward to it. That being said, before I open it up for other questions, I'll share with you that, this is an effective institution. Can it be more effective? Absolutely. But it's also an efficient institution in how it delivers that effectiveness. Just looking at the state data, because I have no life, I was randomly looking at this. If you look at efficiency as cost or delivery of a unit, cost per FTE, we are the second most efficient in the state. Our cost per FTE is about $15,000. The cheapest or the most efficient is probably Klamath. It is at $13,000. The average for the state system is about $18,000. So you are overseeing a college which is effective and efficient, and I think you should be very proud of your constituents who put in the toil, treasure, and tears for it. So with that, I'll shut up and answer. I'm not shutting up.
Listen and respond.
This cost per FTE is something we've been kind of talking about for quite some time, as long as I've been on the board, actually, because it's a good indicator to me to say we haven't got a lot of fat in trying to make ourselves effective. I think that was your point. Shouldn't we assign that as one of our KPIs?
You're asking a question which is above my pay grade, Roger.
What I will say is it very likely could be when we talk about institutional effectiveness or excellence. I want to share real quick. ESUM did a really good job tonight showing us what's coming up next. So we've got our year 7 visit with accreditation coming up next. So what they're going to be looking for is continuity, and can our people tell the same story? Because to be honest, what he said, we are effective, we are efficient. That story is there to tell. And so because that's coming up and it's important for us to get that right, and we've got a strategic plan, on the horizon with a timeline and a strategy we'll be able to share in the next 60, 90 days. We're waiting for faculty to get back and get them to help embrace and understand it. What our ask is institutionally for us to resist the temptation to mess with this much.
Yeah.
If we can move forward with it for a year, we can go into that strategic planning phase and say, okay, what are our goals? What are our objectives? And so we can watch, there's nothing that stops us from watching these, but if we change our KPIs every year, if I'm an evaluator, I'm like, how is that a key performance indicator if every year you're changing what's key?
Well, that's true. I guess again, from a business standpoint, that just defines productivity.
It very well could make the next cut. What we're asking is, can we have a year for that and other items to be considered as we do our environmental scan, we develop the next strategic plan. So it's not us saying it's not important. It's just what is important right now, probably what's most important is consistency around storytelling.
Remind me what the committee's called again?
The College Effectiveness Council.
College Effectiveness Council.
And so this is one of those things where this kind of work in our spirit of efficiency was thrown together and worked on by the council. And I think given what the group was able to accomplish with all their split responsibilities, when we said, well, if we add mission effectiveness and focus on it and put dedicated resources, we're gonna be able to tell our story more clearly and more effectively. And that's the work we've begun. And there's a perfect on-ramp for it. And we just all just kind of have to let ourselves get there.
And if I remember correctly, when you have those mid visits, they also they provide you feedback on,
Yeah.
have you thought about this? What about that? Correct?
The mid-cycle visit went generally well. That's where they visited and looked at our findings from our full cycle visit.
Right.
And they were able to say, wow, you're making really good progress on these. This one, we're going to have you keep watching. So they kind of do and check on that. And so assessment is one we've made really good gains on, but it was also that where they said, you might look at those KPIs. So as a result of the mid-cycle visit, we did this and said, if we can just live with it, and live with it pridely. I mean, I make excuses for it, but I fully suspect that metric or one very adjacent to it will fit into how we adopt new KPIs.
I just want to check in with Jonathan and Maria online if they had any questions or wonderings for Isam or Robert.
Just a deep appreciation for, this is a huge heavy lift from the entire institution, and I just want to I've been listening to the comments and the questions, and I just wanted to say that we asked Randy when he started to increase enrollment, and it's we've accomplished that. And I think part of it is because our strategies align very carefully with that particular goal. And you see those strategies reflected throughout this plan. And so that was no accident. So to questions about keeping the course, staying the course, I think that makes a whole lot of sense. And we'll have an opportunity to rethink these for the next go around. So well done, everyone.
Gary, you have a question?
Jonathan,
Jonathan.
he's on.
Jonathan, do you have comment or statement or question?
Sam's Zoom picture looks like it's a Secret Service. It does.
We'll come back to him.
Yes.
Gary, did you have a question?
So my wondering is the list of KPIs, that group of them that Juliet shared with us a year ago when she met with staff, faculty, and I remember the room we were in. I just want to put my head around which group of them. Is that the group that is being referred to, that Isam and you're referring to?
These are the same metrics are presented a little differently. They're just the way they're presented in the chart is different, but they're the same metrics. We made tweaks a little bit to them last year for this year. And this is what we're saying, let's keep, and I'm up there, Julia. You remember top ahead with ones we tweaked from last year to this year?
But
They
I
were
guess
one
my
of
question is,
the year prior, based on the mid-cycle visit, we did a pretty heavy overhaul.
Yeah,
And
I-
last year, we did some tweaks on the fringes.
The survey, we talked about the employee engagement survey. So those two questions were ones that were talked about, and then some clarity on professional development council, I think. Just clarifying the wording. I don't think we changed any of the intent of that. The numbers on the things though, those targets, I don't recall.
okay.
I don't want to verify every single one.
No, I just want to wrap my head around where the baseline of the KPIs originated and where did I learn about them? And I'm just remembering that that's the baseline, if you will. Then they sort of got tweaked a little bit when more robust measures came in that you may have wanted to add. Is that my understanding correctly? Okay, then it just helps me understand the context. Thanks.
Yeah, and the survey results from the Great Colleges survey, how we got the information back helped us guide some adjustments we needed to make, but we hadn't seen the survey results. Then when we received them, we did some work on that.
It makes awesome, good sense.
And I want to thank you for being really clear and calling out the disaggregated data. I know we had a lot of conversation around that during our retreat and how important it was for us to know, and I appreciate. We always get it, but sometimes it has to be called out a little bit for us to really recognize that that's what we are getting. So thank you for that, and I appreciate it. Anything else?
I just want to make the comment that the numbers look good. I think that some of the KPIs were aspirational. I think we've done a good job with it. But so much of an institution is non-quantifiable. You can't put a number on how people feel about us or how we're doing. And my final comment is, your picture up there on Zoom looks like you're a Secret Service guy.
So serious.
Yeah. I was going, who is that guy?
We call him Agent Assam.
Yeah.
I'll make it.
Like it. I say keep it.
The chair said I could keep it.
Okay, you're good.
Hey,
You're good.
got that good gravitas to it. Good. Jonathan, last chance. If there's anything you want, speak now or wait till 5 o'clock.
It's not working because he
That's
had
okay.
unmuted. He's probably talking right at us, so we didn't hear a word.
He might be. All right, our next item on our agenda is just if there are any questions on the regular agenda really quickly. All right, with that, we'll adjourn the work session and come back together at 5 o'clock.